Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Insurance Tech webinar. So excited to have Mandy Reed here with us today from We Build Staxx. Mandy is a highly successful insurance agent, had two different agencies, and then made the transition into the technology space, which is such a huge benefit for insurance agents because having someone who understands the interworkings of an insurance agency and then also technology and not even just a system, like not a particular piece of software, but so many pieces of software, and then understanding how to connect them and make them really work seamlessly for agencies is a massive benefit. So I know we are all very grateful for Mandy and the space that she's in and all the hard work she has done for agents. So Mandy, thank you and welcome to the webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be able to visit with you and with everyone and just share a whole bunch of good, exciting things as we dive really into automation, workflow design, Zapier, of course. Like I'm in the Zapier space, so we're going to talk a lot about that as well. But really just help you guys hopefully walk away from this feeling like maybe you can tackle one piece of your agencies. So if that's okay, I would like to be able to share my screen if I can, Mariah, to be able to
Yes,
pull up my.
definitely go ahead and share your screen. While you're pulling that up, you guys, Mandy has helped so many agencies at this point, a lot of our clients as well. And as you know, the insurance tech space is just blowing up. Over the last 7, 8 years, dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of InsureTech companies have been coming to the market and they have unique value propositions, which is great. But then you end up with like all this disjointed technology. And that is really where Mandy has been stepping into the space and helping people so much. So I'm really excited for this presentation, but I just want to give you guys kind of a mindset to be in, which is you've got all of these cool things, but how do you make them work together and make it really easy for you and your staff? So that is a lot of what's going to be discussed today. Go ahead, Mandy.
Awesome. All right, guys. So again, I'm Mandy. I'm the CEO of We Build Staxx. Just a little bit about me because why are you listening to me, right? So I, as Mariah mentioned, was in insurance prior. I still am. My husband and I have an independent agency to this day. But basically, I was in the spot where many of you are, where finding staff was difficult, retention was hard. There was constantly changes in book rewrites, and I was going to lose my mind. And so through this desperation, I started to turn to automation and to technology and to these pieces because frankly, I couldn't get the people in that I needed to. And so through that, kind of began my journey now into the tech space. So again, we help insurance teams streamline systems, save time. I'm really obsessed with building automations that get used. One of the big things I want you to understand is you don't always need more tools. Like a lot of times we need better workflows. I've heard Mariah say a lot of times too, like the way you implement these things in your agency is what really matters. And so we're going to talk a lot about that today, like how we identify these. Again, a key piece I hope you all walk away with is most of the times we don't need more tools. We need better processes. And so we're going to dive into how do we get those processes today.
Awesome.
Most of you probably joined because you heard Zapier. And so we are definitely going to dive into Zapier today and how it fits in this realm. I'm actually going to start there first because I think it's helpful for you to understand as we're kind of envisioning what this is. The easiest way to think of Zapier is kind of like a little bucket or a bridge that's going to go in between the different applications you have. So all of you guys, I'm sure, are just subscribed out, right? Everything is a subscription anymore, whether it's your email or it's your CRM, of course. If it's anything, we're always using these. And so what Zapier does is it connects those systems that don't integrate. So most of you on here, I'm hoping, are agency Zoom users. And so you know there's a lot of integrations in that space, but there's other things you probably use that may not be there. That is where Zapier is actually going to come in. So Zapier is going to automate the tasks between the tools. Coding is not required for most of the things. Everything we're going to talk about today, you guys don't need coding. But really, you want to think of it as your digital assistant, right? So it's going to take information from here and it's going to move it over here. That's really what we kind of want to get in the line of thinking. Zapier functions off of two things. So just a little vocab for the day, trigger and actions. And so I'm going to show you what those look like in there too. But basically what you need to understand on this is that everything has to move in order for Zapier to work. So what that means is something has to happen in a system in order for something else to happen. So an example of this would be you receive an email and now you want to have a reply, or you add a lead and now you want to send an email. That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about today. So Zapier runs your workflows after you define them. So you'll see this little piece right here when you're designing. So I'm actually going to jump to Zapier really quick and show you guys around just a little bit. And then we're going to go back into the actual workflow design so you can see how we can apply this knowledge that we're going to use. I'm going to go ahead and change the share screen that I have here. If I can, don't you
Yeah,
love?
this if this then that type of thought process is something that I know for me took a really long time to develop because when you are using a piece of software, it's easy to just think very siloed in that thought process that this does this and this does that. But trying to think of, well, when this happens here physically now, I have to go here and do this. But Zapier can take away that physical work, right? I don't have to, an email happened and I have to type a reply. Potentially with your automation, that reply could be sent for you automatically. Or someone goes to your website, you receive an email with a lead. Now I have to go add that lead to my CRM and I'm typing it in. But where Zapier can come in is that lead, that email or that lead submission automatically shows up in your CRM. So it's a lot of it is work that you would otherwise physically do, but the system can just do for you. Because as we know, the more time you spend in front of people, talking to prospects, talking to clients, asking for referrals, networking, building relationships, the faster your agency will grow. And there is no value in moving information from a website form into your CRM. It needs to be done, but it's not a skill. It is something that should be automated. Mandy's going to show you around Zapier here, but look in your agency for things anytime you're considering, operational efficiency. When this happens, I have to do this next. Could you automate that?
Absolutely. And when we go through some of the workflow design, I'm going to help you guys organize your thoughts a little bit. So again, hopefully when you leave today, we can pick one spot of our agency where we can start at the beginning and go all the way through it. And you guys should hopefully be able to design your own workflow is my goal. So this is Zapier. Zapier has some different things. There is a free version. That's what we're going to kind of play in, just so you know. But you can actually go to Zapier, you guys, and go into Explore Apps. This is a great place for you to be able to see what's already available out there. I'm so glad Mariah talked about forms. That's a really great place. All agencies need forms, right? Like we just agree on that at this point. There should be a way to be able to get the contact and information from your customers into Agency Zoom. And so we're just going to look at this here. So we're going to say Jotform. Lots of people use that. So is Jotform in here? Oh, look at that. Jotform's right here. Click on it. What can we do with Jotform? So remember, we're talking about the trigger at the beginning. So the Jotform being submitted in Agency Zoom. Ah, there it is. So what Mariah was talking about, that when this happened, do this, you can see right here. You can go back and forth and swap these. So when there's a new form submission, what do we want to happen? Lots of us probably want to create a lead, right? In Agency Zoom. So maybe we're going to do a personal one. And then we can connect these pieces and it's going to automatically go there. I don't want to spend too much time on this. If you go through these and connect them, you'll be able to see. If we go up here to actually create a Zap, you're going to see this logic again in a visual way, which I'm very visual, so I wanted you guys to be able to see this. So this is your starting point. This is your ending point. When we go through our workflow conversations today, I want us to always be in that mindset. What's the very first thing that happens with our customers? Like, where are we interacting with them? Are we interacting on a website? Are we interacting with a phone call? Are we interacting with a text? So that's the beginning, right? And then we're going to walk through the journey. So I'm going to hop back into my slide deck in here real quick. And
This
I love,
visualization has gotten so good in Zapier. When we first started using Zapier, they advertised that there was 5,000 different softwares on there. As you saw a moment ago, it says 7,000 now. So this is becoming so popular because coding is an entire skill, right? It's a different language you have to be able to speak, but the ability to use Zapier to connect, to build code without coding, oh my gosh, it's just opened up so many opportunities for those of us who don't speak the coding language, because I've never done that. And I mean, and the like options are really endless. I mean, we even have like, right now in our business, I get an email when something happens because I'm, the owner of the business, but I really want my assistant to have that notification. So we're building a Zap to change the direction. I'm still going to get the email, but she's going to get a notification somewhere else. And not that my assistant is going anywhere, but if she ever did, a different assistant would potentially just still see that same exact information pumping into the same area. So a lot of this, like if you're forwarding emails or notifications to different people, so many ways to just build it once and not have to touch it. Well, to an extent, right? There's maintenance, but to an extent, not have to change it if you have staff changes or you make an adjustment, in the business, like the information's still going to flow there, which I love.
Absolutely. And being able to, I mean, I kind of think of Zapier as like a tiny little robot, right? It's carrying all this data that you would have to do. In the old days, someone would call in, we'd write down the customer's name, we would write down their date of birth, right? And then we would go over to our system and we would put it in there. Well, Zapier is like this tiny little robot, right? So if we have that in a form, it's going to take that name and walk over and set it in your CRM for you. And if they sell a policy, it's going to take that information and it may walk over to your Slack channel or your Teams channel and tell everybody about it. And so it really is this amazing, affordable middleman. So let's go to our next. Just kidding. Maybe we're not going to our next screen.
For anybody on the webinar, can you guys like get a feel for the difference between Mandy and I? She has her big, colorful background, and I'm like black. Like we joke about this all the time.
It is an awesome balance for sure. Okay, so kind of stepping back a little bit, right? Tools aren't the problem, workflows are. And Mariah can attest to this. She has, you guys are hitting about like 1,000 agencies now, aren't you? I saw that. That's like amazing.
We're approaching, I think we're just over 700. So yeah, we're approaching 1,000.
Incoming. So this is something that we've seen. We are getting close to about 400 agencies now. So this is something that we see all the time, is that so many times we get really excited as insurance agents because we see new software. And we're kind of like fish. And we run to the next shiny thing. And software salespeople, no offense, guys, they want to sell it to you, right? Just like we want to sell insurance. And so, of course, they're going to tell us how this software system is going to solve all of our problems. But if any of you have had any experiences with systems that you've purchased before and it either sits around for 6 months because you don't have time to do anything with it, or it doesn't work with anything else you have, it's really, really frustrating. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And it's a lot of times really hard on your team because you get excited, you start training them, then all of a sudden there's not a process and it just all falls apart. So again, we're going to talk about how workflows are this. So most agencies already have workflows. A lot of them are just hidden and messy, right? A lot of times when we're seeing things as agency owners that our team is struggling with, maybe they are not replying to an underwriter in a timely manner when there's a question, or maybe they are not getting certificates to someone who's requesting it timely. Any of those areas where maybe the ball's being dropped, it's usually a design issue and a process issue, not actually the technology piece itself. So automation, when you turn it on in a situation like this without a design, it's actually really going to amplify all of the things that are going on in your agency. So if we don't have a good process and a good way to think through this workflow, it's just going to actually make it worse. It's going to compound faster, if you will. So that's why we really want to start at this place.
I can't tell you how true that is, Mandy, with the agents we've worked with when we put automation in place for them. And then they'll come back a few months later and say, my tasks are just overwhelmed or my leads are stacking up in my pipeline. And that's always my response. Well, this has always happened in your business. You can just see it now. Now it's visual and it can't be hidden in just your, oh, it's somewhere in the back of your mind that you forgot. It's very, very true that whatever's going on, whatever chaos is there, if you start automating it and adding systems that are going to track and keep moving things forward, you won't be able to ignore it. It's going to be right in front of you. But that's so awesome as well, because now you know what to work on, right? Like what needs help. So it really does bring a lot of clarity as well.
Absolutely. And then it's like, so here's an example. This is a real life example, guys, right? So I had a staff person, a producer who was really obsessed with her notebook. Okay. Everything was in her notebook. We had to shred notebooks for eons, it seemed like, after she was gone. And you don't realize maybe how many quotes are coming in or how many service requests are coming in or just all of those pieces, right? Because I'm not going to grab the notebook every day and flip through it and look at every single page and try to kind of get a read on it. And that's one of the benefits, of course, of Agency Zoom, right? Is that reporting piece to see what your team's doing and all of that. Well, it seems manageable when it's in a notebook because you can't see that there's maybe been 15 new quotes that have come in like an hour or a bunch of service requests. You can't see if it's been completed. So all of a sudden, when we made the shift several years ago to Agency Zoom, it was a mirror. It was an absolute mirror as an agency owner, right? Because you're like, oh, no wonder why this person's like grumpy and stressed out. Like this workload is absolutely ridiculous. And so Agency Zoom and having those automations built in there where I could see every new lead, where I could see every new quote, where I could see every new service request, those pieces, creating that workflow for new business and creating that workflow for service allowed me to be able to have much better beat on the agency that I was running and staff responsibilities. And so all of these pieces go together with the efficiency of your agency. So a few areas with agencies that things often fall through the cracks. And you all have different focuses. You're in different parts of the country. Some of you are just like chasing new business, right? And it's like lead, 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 and you're quoting like crazy. Some of you have been for the last several years kind of in panic, right? Carriers pulling out, rewriting books. It's all about service and retention. So we're all going to have different pieces that we want to focus on. But I would encourage you to maybe look at this for some places to start. Where do you not have a super clean workflow? Is it your new leads? Do you know exactly what happens from the moment the customer makes contact with your agency all the way up until the policy is sold and moves into a renewal pipeline? Is it your renewals? Are you missing things constantly? Are certificates not going out? Are we not getting documents signed? Are we not saving documents? Maybe that's an area that you should work on. Do you have a lot of call volume? Is it just missed calls constantly? You're getting texts, people are frustrated. You don't really have a system in place to be able to do that. Is it your actual onboarding with your client, right? So after like they're there, what are we doing with them next? Are we thanking them? Are we following up? Is there a referral we need to talk to? So start trying to silo your agency. If you look at your whole agency, you guys, you're just going to be overwhelmed. It's too much to look together. And Mariah can attest to that even in the COO space. It's best to pick a spot, start at the beginning, and then create really quality product through that. So you're going to map out your agency just like a machine. It's not just a series of tasks. So when you are designing these pieces, you do want to be able to think about who this is going to impact, who on your team, how do you want to see things, where do you want to be involved, where is your technology in there? Again, we're not shopping for technology yet. First, we're establishing the needs and where the holes are. And that's again where we kind of get backwards, right? We see the shiny thing. We know there's a problem. We run to the shiny thing. I would encourage you to just pause at that moment and go back and actually see where those holes are, right? And so then what you're doing is you're looking for technology to solve the workflow problem, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of hit on this a little bit, right? So starting small and then going big later. We don't need to fix everything at once, just one good one to start the momentum. Staff can often kind of panic a little bit when we start talking about new things. And so we do want to make sure that we're solving problems, picking the right workflow first. So the easiest way is looking for high repetition, an area of high frustration, and then something that has a clear start and end. So we have our chat pulled up. Any particular areas that anyone wants to share that's just like a high repetition piece?
So guys, in the chat, go ahead and type in something that you do in your agency every single day, all day long, that maybe also is attached to some frustration that maybe takes longer than it should. Maybe your staff says things like, oh, if I just didn't have to call on non-renewals, what is that pain point? I know in my agency with my CSR, when I started asking her, like, if you could automate or like basically take off one piece of service from your day-to-day, what would it be? And she said, oh, making billing phone calls, late payments. I hate that. That is the first thing that we automated because if you want to get your team on board with technology and you want to make them a champion of change, because that is half the battle, a lot of times, solve the problems that they have first, because then they're going to be all about it. Oh my gosh, my life is so much easier now. I enjoy my job more. What else can we automate? Like, what else can we do? What else can we change? You definitely got to get them on your side. So go ahead and type those into the chat. Let us know what things are bothering you, what's taking a lot of time, what do you wish you just didn't have to do in your agency.
So we've got some good ones on there. So Laura mentioned forms. So we kind of talked about that and the details going to agencies. And that's really annoying to be on the phone and to ask all of the details and then to have to hang up and turn around and put all of those details that you just put somewhere else. I mean, and that's not just annoying, right? It's also like you risk having like poor data in there, right? Like typos. And, it's proven, if you type an email 100 times, how many do you think you're going to get it right 100 times? Like you're not, right? So even those little pieces there impact that. Getting back to new lead voicemails, that's great. There's tons of automation that can be done with solid voice over IP systems to be able to help you with those call volumes and the way you're interacting with your customers there. Missed calls, making sure that they get returned in a timely manner. That's also good too, Andrea. So it sounds like a lot kind of on those phone pieces. A plug for the phone, guys, anymore. If your technology does not do a little bit more than what its original design is for, it's not worth having. Phones are not phones anymore, are they, Mariah?
No, they're not phones. Like if all your phone system can do is place calls or take calls and maybe text, you are way behind the game. That is an outdated phone system. And especially if you have a hard line in your business, you have no ability to run any technology around the hard line. So definitely voice over IP. That's just a virtual, phone system, runs through your internet. And then bells and whistles. I mean, there are so many options out there for phone systems, and the ability to do like what Andrea is saying, hey, there's a missed call. We need to make sure that gets returned. So if it's a VoIP system, I don't know, Mandy, you're going to talk more about this, but you have a ton of options of notifying your staff, reminding your staff, even potentially placing the dial, and then your team just picks up the phone. So there is a lot of ways to solve those problems, but you've got to have a solution that has the right features and benefits. But again, we're talking workflow first and then picking software, because once you know what you need it to do, you can ask the right questions on these software demos and pick the right technology.
Absolutely. So those are some good places. I mean, I kind of joke all the time, like this, right? How much do I actually talk on it anymore? Like,
It's
in
not,
compared to everything else, I mean, we might be even into like a little bit of worship on these things anymore, right, guys? And so, really and truly, with our cell phones, like that's exactly the example with the voice over IP phone systems is nothing just is as it used to be. And so, definitely put that one in your hat if you do have a landline. So, just make sure I didn't get any more. So, that's great, guys. Thank you for sharing that. It's a little more fun to be
I think
interactive.
you guys are being quiet. I'm sure there's way more frustration and pain points. I mean, what about following up on documents, like constantly reminding them, trying to collect signatures? These are things I know just in my agency were frustrating and very time consuming. And I was having to schedule myself, constant reminders or events on my calendar to sit down and call everybody who was outstanding for an application or was missing a, payment form and all of these things. So I know there's lots of other items as well. So continue to share in the chat as you think of them.
Absolutely. And a few other things like I hate saving attachments and emails to a
Yeah.
drive. Like it's so annoying. I don't know why it's annoying. It's not hard. Most of these things that we're all talking about, right? These annoyances, they really are annoyances. They're not terribly complicated, but it does take time. It does take time away from interacting with our customers. And it does, kind of affect our attitude sometimes too. So again, so we're going to be thinking about that. So we picked a silo, right? So we're talking new business or we're talking retention, how we interact with customers. We're trying to pick those areas where we've got high repetition or the high frustration, like we said. So having those conversations with your staff is a great way to get the buy-in, right? Hey, Mandy, what is the most annoying thing about your job? Well, maybe don't say it like that because that list might be long. What is the most annoying task you perform on your computer about your job? That might be a better one. Saving files from email into Google Drive folders, Kristen's. Yep, exactly. And saving things into Agency Zoom. That's a thing too, right? Sometimes you want some files in different places. Maybe the same file you want in your Google Drive, and maybe you also want in an AMS, or maybe you want some pieces in Agency Zoom. So that's another example of an automation that could make sense. All right, kind of move this guy over a little. So we're going to design it before we build it. We don't jump to tools. We get clarity first. So once you guys discover this, I'm sure many of you already have softwares rolling in the back of your head, because that's what we do, because you've seen something online that was going to solve your problems. Again, remember, stop. We need to think about how this is actually going to help. So we've picked something. Let's go ahead for the sake of illustration. We've picked the way we interact with new business. So what is that trigger? Remember, we have to think Zapier. That's what we're here for. So what's that first thing, that form that gets completed, right? Whether maybe it's a SALT form or risk advisor form or a JOT form or a gravity form, whatever it is.
Microsoft Forms, Google Forms, like it can be generic.
It goes forever.
Doesn't have to be an insurance specific form.
Absolutely.
When we say forms too, guys, like everybody's always been using forms. You might have been typing in information into your rater. That's a form, right? That is a submission page where you're entering data. Maybe you were writing it down on a piece of paper. That's still a form. We're just talking digital forms in this example.
Absolutely. And there's lots of agencies we've talked to who've created, like, you spend a bunch of time on Adobe making like fillable PDF forms for your staff. And bless you, because that's an annoying task. So digital forms are a lot easier than that. So But so that's what we're doing. So what triggers it? Step one, right? The form is going to be submitted from wherever in the world you have it, whether it's your staff or a customer. What do you want to happen next? So let's stay in the Agency Zoom ecosystem. We want a lead to be created, right? If they're not already in there, wouldn't it be nice if that name, phone number, and email, all those things could show up in your Agency Zoom? Zapier can do exactly that, you guys. And we're talking about that bridge. It can take all of those pieces from your form and it can stick it into Agency Zoom and create a lead. Well, what do we want to happen?
I want to add too, it can also go other places. So if you're not using Agency Zoom, if you're using a different CRM, maybe you don't have a CRM, maybe your staff still works off of like an Excel file and that's your lead database. So just keep in mind, it doesn't have to be Agency Zoom. It doesn't have to be a CRM. It could potentially be an AMS system. There's lots of places it could land. But you all should have a CRM at this point, but if you don't, it can still go other places too. It could even land in a Slack channel so that your team just knows that this person is there and they grab it, or Teams. So the where it ends up, lots and lots of choices.
Absolutely. And that's where that Explore Apps piece in Zapier that I showed you guys can be really handy. So you can type in whatever form, your Microsoft form, your Google form, any of those pieces. And when you're dreaming about where you would like this to go, put in the other one and see if it's there. Mm-hmm. Again, does that mean that those are the only options? No, of course, I'll get into that at the end with us. But for you guys, you absolutely can hop into that Explore Apps area and be able to see that feedback to get it there. And there are people, even if a form is submitted, maybe you just wanted to go to a Teams channel and say, a new quote is here. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. So then what systems or people are involved, right? So then we want to talk about our staff. Is this a CSR task? Is this a producer task? Is this an agency owner task? Is this a VA task, an AI task, right? Remember, technology is evolving quickly, right? And so we want to think of all those pieces, who's involved. And then what's the ultimate desired result? Do you want there to be communication back to the customer? Hopefully, right? If they say something to us, wouldn't it be nice that they get something back, even if it's after hours? Those are the things that you guys need to be thinking about when we're designing. So again, back to that new business, we've got a form. It's indicated to us that somebody is interested in doing business with us. We want to be able to reply back to them and say, hey, we're also interested in doing business with you. Here's how we can do this. And we want it to move along that sales pipeline as smoothly with as little sales friction as possible. We want to make sure that we're bringing in the right team members at the right points of contact, and that those team members have all of the tools and automation to be able to respond to that client promptly. And again, to reduce that sales friction as it goes through. Oops. Okay. Chaos to clarity. So before you have a form, right? That's great. In my case, it sat in the notebook. Nobody knew except for this one producer or me if I went and opened the notebook. Don't be like me.
Actually, for us, the big thing that pushed us to digital forms was COVID because we all had to work from
Oh.
home, and my staff also was very paper heavy before all this, and now they're working at home and nobody can see anything. I can't walk over and look at the notebook. Even like things like vacation or sick days. What were they working on? And then and then if I did have the notebook, once we went back in the office, can I read your handwriting? I don't know what this means. So
That sh-
that was for us. I mean, that's when we first started using forms for like everything, like PTO requests, benefit enrollment, quotes, customer service renewals, like just forms for everything because everyone can see it. There's no handwriting problems. It's not on your desk. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I should have listened to my team for years when they were like, I have no idea what you just wrote. And then sometimes I also had no idea what I just wrote. So and then also, of course, I mean, even just from a security standpoint, you're able to do a lot more from a security standpoint, electronically with data segmentation and things like that, versus like if someone walks in and grabs a notebook, like it would be bad, right? You tell
Right.
them not to put things in there, but we all know we're all bosses, right? So we all know how that goes sometimes. So then no one is notified, right? And then maybe the lead just kind of gets cold because there's not a timely response. Or maybe there's really good efforts. Maybe you do have a process in place. Like we're making assumptions here, right? Maybe you have a process in place for how this scenario should go, but maybe you don't have the workflow behind to add automation to it. And so then things just happen, right? Someone's sick. And so the next day the customer doesn't get called, or it's right before lunchtime and they're running out the door. And so when they come back, there's a customer sitting at their desk. Those little interruptions are very human. But what's neat about Zapier and automation and all of these pieces is it's not. It doesn't need a break. It doesn't have sick kids. It doesn't need to do any of these things. And again, we're not minimizing the amazing people that work for us. We're just recognizing that they're human and we're giving them good assistance to be able to help them do their job and better. So now with Zapier, I kind of put in some little spots where that could make sense. So somebody fills out a form. And then Zapier is going to take it, right? Carry it over and stick it into our CRM, our spreadsheet, any of those pieces that we talked about. We can assign it to someone, right? So in this case, we're talking about a producer, but maybe it's a service request. Maybe somebody called and you need to have your billing person call them back. You can have automation in there when that comes through. That call goes to someone assigned in your agency to be able to return it. If you can hear my puppy, I'm so sorry. He is being so naughty right now. He knows that I'm talking to all of you. Stop. He's very cute, but I'm so sorry. And so same thing, like if you can have send a text out back maybe to the customer. Hey, customer, I got your message. We're working on this. What's a good time to call you? Or hey, customer, we got this taken care of. Here's your whatever proof of insurance. Doesn't matter. You can create those. And then having clear handoffs and fewer mistakes, right? So we know because we're having these tasks go to the person that you've designed, then it's not going to anyone else on accident or getting pushed off or getting forgotten because you have it and you have a trackable, measurable way to see what your team is able to do, how they're handling it, what the turnaround is, and all of those details that make us to where we can have really good data-driven decisions, which we all know as business owners is the key to, I mean, successful business ownership, right? Is we're making decisions based off of what we know to be true, not what we hope for.
Yeah, before we started ticketing customer service, if you would have asked me, how many times do you have to answer billing questions or how many certificates do you send out per month, I would have no idea because my staff did it and I didn't have a way to check it either. And like Mandy mentioned, having good workflows in place, you might have the best workflow and the best SOP and you trained everybody. And now it's 3 months later. Well, how do you verify that that workflow is actually being executed and followed? So these systems, not only is it, moving information, but tracking information and allowing you to really like trust but verify your staff. That was huge for me when I started adding automation. Was I really thought, these things were really great on, or oh, these are one-offs. We don't do a lot of this. And then when I started having automation that tracked things and I could look at the analytics from those automation flows, I was really surprised as to what my team was actually spending time on. So not only, saving them a ton of time and making sure we eliminate human error, but just like what is happening in my office every day? It's a great question, especially as you get busier and bigger when you have, 15 employees, 25, 50 employees. How do you know what they're doing all day? You don't need to, but the ability to check it, coach, and support them, definitely a must.
And I'm so glad you touched on that piece on the large scale side of things, Mariah. I kind of want to mention the small scale side too, because I think that a lot of times, um, as business owners, we think like this is for the big leagues when I hit X amount of employees or when I hit X amount of revenue. Automation, you guys, and workflow design and integrations, that's what allows you to compete in a market that is always going to be bigger than you. Even the largest agencies still have carriers that are directly working with trying to get clients, right? And so we're never going to be the biggest guy in the room in our industry. If you are, I would like you to call me because I want to hear. But for the most part, we're all in this space where we're doing as much as we can with as little as we can. And automation's a really good way, even if you are a one-man shop, or maybe it's you and a part-time person or one full-time person. You only have so many hours in a day, so many days in a week. Maybe someone's out sick, maternity, maybe you want to take a vacation. That would be something amazing, right? Automation allows you to still continue to interact with your customers and for them to feel those touches from your agency as though you are there at 9 o'clock at night. Well, you all are probably there at 9 o'clock at night, but hopefully you're not talking to customers. And so being able to have that freedom to know, like, hey, my leads pipeline's still getting filled. People are still giving me information for new quotes. AI, Steven put in the chat, getting AI notes from calls into like Agency Zoom or a CRM or a place. That's another example, right? So you have maybe some of these AI or VAs filling some of these spaces, but we need the path to continue. We don't necessarily want the customer to see, oh, it's 5 o'clock. Nothing's going to happen. If we can get them some automation in there, it's really, really a powerful tool. Right. Oops, go back. Okay. Back to talking about how this makes sense with Zapier, right? I know we're kind of hopping a little bit, but hopefully it makes sense. So once we have our steps clear, so we decided, again, we're talking about new customers. We've drawn this out. I would encourage you, Mariah has a love for these giant sticky notes. They're like, I don't know, they're like really, really, really
Are the ones
huge.
I put on my wall.
I know. We're in all this automation, and Mariah's like, give me the large sticky notes.
I mean, it works though. Like when,
It
that's what
does.
we were doing at boot camp, like where we put them up on the wall and we literally just brain map it, right? Like kind of thought dump on it. This needs to happen, that needs to happen. That way it can be messy. You can draw arrows, you can cross it out, redo it, but get a visualization of that process. It really, really does help. And then you can start building. Yeah, for sure.
And maybe get your team. Again, we talked about that buy-in, right? So maybe you get your team in there. Maybe you get your service team to start working on their renewal pieces and what they want to see. And you get your sales team working on something. But that's a great way for you to start to visually put this out because at the end, when you do jump back over to Zapier, you do need to understand what that exact order is because it's going to follow you. There's not going to be anything in there that tells you what to do next. And so you need to have those very clear steps of what is in there and what can be in there. So for this example, remember we talked about the forms again. We like forms. We want it to go to, in this case, a CRM. We also want it to send a Slack alert to our Slack channel saying that there's a new quote request. And then we want to create the follow-up task in Agency Zoom. What's really neat about Zapier is you don't have to have it just do one thing. So somebody mentioned earlier about saving files. You can have it save files in multiple places. You don't have to do multiple things. That's Zapier's job to carry it over to the drive, to carry it over to Agency Zoom, to carry it over to wherever else you want it to be. That's what that's going to be doing. So you can do multiple things off of one trigger. In this case, form submitted.
Yeah,
I
we
want to
actually
take
are we're working on a workflow right now for an agency where their form is submitted from their website. And automatically, what's going to happen is it'll create the lead or update a lead if it was already there, but it's their opt-in form, like that they're using for all of them. It's going to create a folder in OneDrive for that client. it's going to document that opt-in form so that if the TCPA ever comes, knocking on their door, they can pull the file out of that folder. It also is copying an Excel file that this agency uses as part of their presentation. So they actually compare coverages and price and do a breakdown in their presentation. So it's copying that Excel file, making a unique one for that particular prospect. So when you get to the quote section, all their staff is doing is opening the file and filling out the Excel sheet with the quote data from the carrier. But all of that is happening in one step from one trigger. Multiple things, multiple systems are affected. A notification goes out to their Slack or their Teams channel as well. And nobody had to do anything, right? It's just there. They can pick up the phone, work through the quote. So when you say multiple, I mean, some of these apps or API builds, there's a dozen different softwares that are affected. It can do a lot of things all in one.
I wanted to kind of pause on that. That was an excellent point. Is anybody have some questions about these pieces? Again, just before we move too far forward,
Yeah, this is a great
clarifications.
time for Q&A. So what questions do you guys have so far? Or do you want to type, you can even type it and say, hey, when this happens in my business, can that happen in a different system? We are not, I mean, Mandy is, I know there's a 7,000 softwares on Zapier, but in the insurance space, there's a lot of consistently used systems that she has probably seen or touched. So go ahead and take some time to type in any questions you guys have. While we're waiting for those, Mandy, can you think of maybe like the largest Zap you guys have built? Like how many steps do you think that it had?
Oh my gosh. Well, when we're doing a lot of things with um like combining AI into some pieces with the voice over IPs and then kind of forms going back and forth. I mean, we've done some doozies. And then obviously getting into like our custom integrations and API and webhook pieces. I mean, they can get kind of ugly. We try to make them in a little box so they're not overwhelming when anyone looks at them. But I mean, I would say like that form piece, like we've seen it send out thank you texts, go into the drive for TCPA pieces, apply a tag in agency Zoom for TCPA pieces, create the lead, send out the team Slack to the channel that is the producers, send something to the agency owner to say that there's something new, send out an automated email back to the customer, and forward things to a VA, all off of like one thing. So there is so many pieces that can go in there. Also, a lot of times Zapier can be a solution for kind of team engagement. A lot of times agencies will talk about like dashboards, like wanting like a sales dashboard and things. Again, another subscription can get really pricey. But even just doing little things like in your Teams or your Slack or any of those kind of inter office chats, just being like, Mandy just sold a $75,000 policy, applause, and everybody gets to see it. And we used to ring a bell in our office. Obviously, like COVID and those scenarios, it didn't work, but it's kind of a virtual bell, right? It keeps that momentum going. It keeps that like camaraderie going. So those are some different ways you can use systems you already have as well.
We
Let's
have some
look. We got
questions. I'll read the questions for you, Mandy.
okay.
On that
Thanks.
same note, we just started doing like a motivational message every morning. It's something that as a business owner, I always have wanted to do, like pull up famous quotes from people I respect and send them to my team every morning or something like that. But then, the morning starts and I'm like, oh man, I forgot to send that message to my team. Dang it. And it's that like remembering to do all of the things. You can automate that. Your team gets it. It comes from you. Like there's fun things you can do, like you said, around camaraderie as well. So question in here, as a 16-year agent, I have so many inefficiencies. I don't know where to begin. How can I identify what to focus on?
It's kind of a tag team question for both of us on that one because that's really where it's at is that as we do business longer and longer, we just kind of do it the way we've been doing it. And so, kind of going back a few slides back and picking a spot, like in your state right now, is the focus on new business or is your focus on retention? I would say start there. Those are usually like the two big spots, right? We're either growing or we're trying to save what we've already grown. I would pick one of those and really dive into it for a little while. choosing again, if it's because, you have a book rewrite, then that's obviously the priority. So then maybe we're really diving deep into how can we make that process easier and just start writing it down. I mean, truly, like that's what I do. I get a notebook and I just keep adding things to it. Um, you can actually even go onto ChatGPT. ChatGPT has a microphone piece too. You can actually just talk to it and it can remember all the things you're working on. And so even just jumping into ChatGPT and be like, first we do this, then we do this. And what's cool about ChatGPT being AI is that if you're like, oh, wait, we actually do this before that. It's not like you're in a Word document trying to like reconfigure those pieces, but use some of those AI tools to help you organize your thoughts first. And then we can go back again to like those slides that we had before where we start thinking about who's involved, the customer, where are they involved, what parts of your team, and just truly writing it out. Or if you're really stuck, like what we mentioned with like the big sticky notes, ask your team. Go, hey guys,
That's what I was going to say,
here's one
Mandy.
for you. Here's one for you. Here's one for you. Susie, I want you to write your new business process. Mariah, write yours. Mandy, write yours. And then, like, let's look at all of them and kind of see who's doing it better and collaborate and then create one together as a team would be another idea. That's what you were going to say too,
I
Mariah.
was
Is that
gonna
what you
say
said?
talk to your team because that's where I started with automation. I asked them like what they didn't like doing. And I would say even a step further back because we've been doing our COO services now for 4 months and we've learned a ton in doing this. And there is a piece of your operations or inefficiencies and things like that that you're talking about that do just simply stem from staff. And I'm not saying that staff is bad or that they did anything wrong, but what level of like training, coaching, experience, and then them all creating their own processes, right? So we facilitated a meeting with an agency around their commercial renewals process. It's only commercial agency, and each team member, like there was a lot of similarities, but each team member had their own variations of the renewal process that they were doing. So the clients were receiving a different experience based on kind of like who was working on their renewal. So that's the other thing is that, consistent client experience. So I would definitely say meet with your team, talk about what, again, ask that question. And like Mandy said, what's annoying? You don't have to say annoying, but like, what do you wish was easier? What is time consuming? What do you not enjoy doing? That really helps get your buy-in. Now, they might pick something like my team member that picked late payments. I didn't care about that. That wasn't affecting, I mean, kind of affecting retention, but I wanted her to sell more insurance. I wanted her to cross sell more. But because I solved her problem first, she was all bought in. She was 100% all in for automation. Absolutely loved it till the last day she worked for me. And it was because we solved her problems first. So talk to your staff, map it out, have a collaboration meeting, pick one thing at a time, and stay focused until it's totally done. Written SOPs, training material, put it in your company internet if you have it, and then move on. It might feel like you have to solve all the problems yesterday. That's just never going to happen. And it's going to be, partial. So slow down, take your time. The other question that we have in here is DocuSign integrated. I can say yes, but I'm going to pitch this over to Mandy. They have a multiple step process to generate the documents for various lines of business, send them, save them to Drive, save them to their CRM. So is that something that could be done, Mandy?
It is absolutely. And there would be a lot of conversation over where you want those, what those documents look like, but that's definitely something that we see very frequently. Nobody likes saving DocuSign documents or waiting for the updates when it has been done, or even sending them off if you do a lot of commercial and you're waiting for a DocuSign document for your apps, maybe, and then you're sending them to an underwriter, you're saving them, moving them through pipelines in your CRM. All of those things can be done with DocuSign.
Awesome. That's all the questions we had in the chat for right now. So we can keep
Awesome.
jumping back into the
All
agenda.
right.
And you guys, if you have more, if you think of more, please chat in. We want you to get as much as you possibly can out of this webinar.
I want to, in this one, we're going to kind of talk about testing your workflow a little bit. This is kind of where we're going to talk about where we have conversations with software companies, because this is like, where do we start having these conversations? So if you have this design now, you're seeing where the holes are, right? You're like, hey, I don't like, maybe for example, that we have to fill out these accords and then have them saved over here and then go back to the customer and ask for questions. Maybe you identify some areas in there and you have heard of softwares that can solve those problems. That's the time when you start having those conversations because your software interview is what I'm going to call it. I know it's their sales demo, but it's your interview, right? So you're interviewing them to decide if they get your checkbook. So when you're having that conversation, your questions are going to be so much more clear. We're no longer looking for like the razzle dazzle of the demo and all the amazing things it can do. We're saying, my problem is X, Y, and Z. Can you solve X, Y, and Z? And then when you go back to your team and you say, hey, we have a new system, and they like panic, we're like, wait, wait, wait. Right here, we identified that we don't like how this is going, and this software is going to solve this problem. Then you don't feel frustrated about writing the check for the subscription. Your team's not frustrated about learning it. And you didn't just buy something that you're trying to design something else around. You've already recognized the problem and you're going into that interview to do it. Truly interview them and say, okay, I know I have this problem. These are the companies that I know say they can solve that problem. Who's going to solve this problem best? And that's where it's going to work. Once we've done that, then we're going to get into the testing our workflow. I do really want to spend a minute emphasizing this piece. After you've done all this work, it's so easy to just be like, it's done and to move on. It has to work in your agency. If it doesn't work in your agency, it's going to actually cause more frustration and it's going to shine that magnifying glass again that Mariah and I kind of talked about at the beginning, where it just amplifies and automates some of those issues. So you got to try and make sure it makes sense and be willing to make adjustments. An example of where I have seen this really matter is we had an agency who split their customers by the alphabet and the service work by the alphabet, and it seemed manageable. But when they went and created their renewal automation and all of those pieces in there, they realized that one person had a monumentous amount of work more than the other person.
Wow.
Well, that's a huge helpful thing for you. So you want to be able to make those adjustments when you see these, and you need to test it. You're going to test the Zap with real data. You're going to walk through the steps. This is where you're going to, after we know it works, create our processes, our SOPs, all of those pieces. But don't just set it and forget it. I know it's not a fun process, but that's kind of the thing that you want to make sure you do test it.
Well, and this gets back to the role of the agency owner, right? Or the business owner. So I know over the last, 10 years, I've been in the insurance space, where what I view an insurance agent as compared to where I started are completely different things, right? And if we look at these agents that are, that are running very large agencies, 30 million, 100 million in premium, they have evolved past writing insurance and answering billing questions and things like that. But they really are doing these deep dives into how does the business run, looking at the analytics, helping to provide resources for the team. Because if you have nobody at that top level, if nobody in the business is doing those things, then it's that chaos that we talked about. And so like that evolution of an agency owner and as a business owner, when you start doing these things and you see the chaos, when you first put that, it shines that light and you're like, whoa, this is really what's been going on in my business. It will give you that conviction to focus on working on the business so much more than in it. I've mentioned this book a million times, but when I read the E-Myth, that changed my view completely of being a business owner. And it's just been a constant ongoing journey. But when you spend time on these things, you put them in place, monitor, and then adjust. But if nobody's monitoring and adjusting, gosh, like what is that going to do in the business? So it really will be, if you guys start adding automation and systems and start looking at the data and the analytics, it will give you that conviction to change. If you are very ingrained in the day to day with your clients, it'll give you the conviction to make those adjustments. And then when you do that, you're going to see your team flourish because you are removing obstacles and supporting them in a way that they hadn't experienced before. And we've seen this happen in so many of the agencies that we've worked with. And I mean, we get messages, if you guys go look at, Mandy's reviews, our reviews, people talk about being reinvigorated and excited about their business again because they get to work on that business and they can really see what's going on and they're seeing measurable change. And obviously, this is a lot of leadership and behavior. It's not just technology or just Zapier, but it all stems from that workflow, right? That workflow view and taking your time through it, like Mandy's talking about. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is and how it can revolutionize agencies, because we've seen it happen so many times. And when we send agents to Mandy's team and they are just absolutely amazed at how much easier their jobs are. It is it's just the most fun. It's so much fun.
So going on training your team, these are just little pieces here. Mariah is the queen of Loom. She should like Loom should be
Oh,
sponsoring her at this point. Like, so it is talking about just some ways to be able to kind of help you once you've done that training your team. So those are really the big pieces. I know, Syed, you mentioned like both, everything feels like a fire. It's been a fire for 16 years, my friend. It's all right. Like, just pick one. Just pick something. And then you'll be encouraged to pick something else. And that's definitely where, Mariah and her company and myself and my company can definitely assist you with expediting these pieces. If this does seem overwhelming, but you recognize the need in there, then there's definitely things we can do. Real quick, a couple of final thoughts. So remember, automations don't solve chaos. They scale whatever you build. So they'll amplify chaos if you don't have a process in there. But in the end, it's to help you be able to get to your destination faster. Make sure you're designing with intention and then you're automating with that clarity. So those are the pieces that I hope are good takeaways. This is my contact information. If anybody would like it, I'll leave that up here for you. We can open up to some Q&A. If it's okay, Mariah, may I show them where my website is where they can find out some of the
yeah.
applications
And
and things like that?
I think you had a promo for the attendees, right? So there
I
was a, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, yes. And we do, anybody who attended on here today gets a 10% off discount off of any of the builds that we have, which I'm going to show you on there. And that discount code is so accelerated automation, right? So AA Staxx, STAXX 25. So AA Staxx 25.
Just put it in the chat for you guys if you want to grab that. So if you decide that you want to meet with Mandy to talk about workflow, that is the coupon code to use to get that promo.
And let
And
me go
that if you're
ahead.
watching the recording of this, it doesn't apply. You have to be here live. So we're going to be posting the recording on our YouTube channel like we always do. But sorry, if you weren't here, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that. So make sure you register for future webinars. Yeah, Mandy's going to show you her website so you can see exactly how to contact her if you want help with this.
And some quick ways to see some common builds as well. So our website is webuildstaxx.com. And if you go to our store, this is we're adding to this every day. Our library is so big that we're actually almost forgetting some of the things that we've done. But if you go to our store, you can actually search by app and you can see some common builds. Now, keep in mind, our team, we are developers. And so we do code in Zapier. So just because if you go into Zapier and you see that something's not there, please don't let that deter you from reaching out to us because we can still utilize the platform in a different function with accessing API, which is not what today's Zoom call was about, but for future, that is something that we do. So we work with these tech companies and are vetted to access their API so we can build additional things out for you. But for the sake of ease, if you go to the search by app, you can see some common pieces that are on here. All of our builds are out in buckets. So this is what you guys are going to get the discount off of. You can see any of these pieces. The other option would be to actually go to our website or shoot me an email. We can schedule a time to do a deep dive into your agency. That's my preferred way to go. Again, because we talked about the order of things. And so if you need help with the order of your workflow or a specific area of your workflow, we can have meetings to kind of make those distinctions there and that. So again, that is webuildstaxx.com and it's in the store for search by app. So
And I just
I
want to
really
clarify
appreciate that.
too that Mandy's pricing that what you're looking at is not $1,000 a month. That's not what
Oh
that
yeah,
is.
no.
It's $1,000 for the work. But they also have a maintenance plan. So any of you guys that are using Zapier and maybe you've built some of your own things, because that's where I started. And now Mandy's company, they manage all of my stuff because like they said, they're developers and they will build the automations to be much more robust, easier to maintain as you change staff around or make adjustments. And then software changes. Like this is built into these, 7,000 different software companies. They inevitably change their API or change part of their programming. And then something has to be adjusted. So one of the things that I think is really beneficial, specifically with Mandy's team beyond automation, is the maintenance. So if something does break, you can be on a maintenance plan and they will fix that. Again, you're never going to hire a cheaper employee than you can with automation and technology.
Absolutely. Thank you guys all so much for your time. Thank you so much, Mariah, for having me.
Thank you guys for being here. Go to acceleratedautomation.net/webinars to be able to see our future webinars that are coming up and make sure you do attend because that's where you're going to get those promos. Thanks, guys.